everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Women in Crypto series celebrating Women's History Month. Today, I'm joined by the leadership team of the popular NFT project Crypto Chicks. Welcome, Maddie and Em. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Good morning. It's Friday. We're excited about that. But as you might imagine, in the NFT world, what day of the week it is doesn't particularly matter because it flies 24/7. But we love that.
Yeah, exactly. It's the weekend, but we're still working on the weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we can dive right in. Can you tell us a little bit about Crypto Chicks, some background, how the project got started, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So Crypto Chicks was founded. There was an initial collection of 200 pieces that was started in May of 2021. So coming up almost on a year. I'm rounding up. Yes, I know. And that was just 200 pieces. And the community started to grow organically. Neither Maddie nor I were involved at this time. But the community was growing. There were two founders that were working closely on this, brother and sister, based in Russia. And as the community grew, they started to see the need for maybe launching a 10K collection. That was kind of a trend in the market at the time. And they created in August a 10K generative collection. And the fundamental principles of Crypto Chicks have always been to sort of make a statement on the lack of representation within the NFT industry for women, not just in the artwork, right? There were very few artwork out there at the time that was representing women in the space, but also in the people that are operating behind the scenes, right? There at the time were not many artists. There's numbers out there that 5% of NFT sales that are created by women are being sold, or 5% of sales of the market are represented by women artists. And so that came out they started it in August. The sale started in September. It sold out pretty quickly. And then I joined as a community member in October. And that's kind of my introduction to Crypto Chicks. I was involved in other NFT projects and really felt the lack of representation. And had some gender neutral animal profile pictures that I was bopping around in Discords in. And I got a lot of people saying, my guy, hey man, my dude. And, after like 10, 15 times a day, because I talk a lot, people are misgendering you, and you get really sick of correcting that over and over again. So I found Crypto Chicks and I was like, wow, this is the first opportunity that I feel like, okay, I can have a digital representation of what I actually look like. And so when I'm interacting with people online, they get a sense for what I look like, what my personality is. And that felt really special and unique to me. So I joined the project first just based on the artwork, and then I got to know the community and how passionate people were about this mission of empowering women. And so that's why I stuck around, decided to join the team, and kind of worked up until now. Today, we've gone through a transition of ownership from the founding team to a new U.S. legal entity, of which I'm the CEO, and my friend here, Maddie, is the COO, and I'll let Maddie introduce herself.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Fantastic intro. Good background on everything. I, had a relatively similar, although slightly different experience. I, over the summer, was talking to a group of friends who were earlier into the NFT game than I, and they were, again, discussing all of these random animals that they had purchased and talking about breeding hippos, and I was like, I just cannot get behind this. This is such a weird social phenomenon. But then I started reading more about kind of the actual technical implementation behind it, and found it to be incredibly interesting as a solution for a lot of the problems that we have in today's society, just inefficiencies left and right. But I did not feel like buying a hippo or an ape at the time, RIP, was the right way to go for me. And so I started looking at women-led, women-centric collections, found Crypto Chicks, just immediately felt like the art really resonated with me from a personality perspective. Anyone who knows me knows I can be a little bit feisty, kind of a shark at times, but also am very nice and warm. And I felt like the Crypto Chicks aesthetic has a little bit of that. They're kind of sassy, but they also look like people, that you see out and about and that you're used to encountering in the real world. And so bought my first Crypto Chick in November. never looked back. I have just been around since. Joined the team at the end of January, I think the very last week in January, to kind of help with the internal operations of the project and how we were working. So was in the process of doing kind of discovery and evaluation of operational improvements. And when everything kind of transpired, Em and I decided that we were going to step up and try to be the leaders that the community needed. And here we are.
That's awesome. Well, that's a great overview. And I'm glad you guys joined the team. So I saw on the website's roadmap that Crypto Chicks might be transitioning to Women Labs. Can you give us all a teaser on Women Labs and what that's going to look like?
Spicy question, Jacob.
Yeah.
I'll let him take this one.
Looking for the alpha. We love it.
Yeah.
So we are exploring opportunities with this kind of transition to a US entity. We took a step back and kind of thought through, like, what is our mission? Our mission is to empower women in Web3 and to celebrate the unique, diverse beauty of all women in the space. And I think there's endless opportunities with that, right? There's a lot of different things that can be done. And so what we're launching over the next month with Women Labs is a new program, actually a collective of programs that will allow us to empower women in this space in a little bit of non-traditional ways and non-traditional roles. So there's been a lot of focus on women artists. We're seeing a little bit more of a surge of focus on women engineers, women in marketing and in executive roles, but there's a bunch of other ways that we can tie together what's the impending metaverse that we know to be coming very soon, / there are definitely players already in this space, and ways that women can transition into the Web3 world and have roles and have career opportunities that they can participate in that. And so we have a few different programs that we'll be launching under the Women Labs brand, and some of those will be a little bit more traditional and some of those will be pretty innovative, and we're really excited to be able to share what that includes.
Great. Wow. Yeah. I'm looking forward to Women Labs and kind of learning about what really is going to be under the hood of that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So also I was looking at OpenSea, I was looking at kind of the floor price and stuff, and I saw a crazy surge near the end of January. And my question was going to be, well, what led to the surge? And I'm like, I'm an NFT analyst. I can do this research on my own. So I went through the Twitter and saw and then remembered, oh yeah, the Twitter account, the official Twitter account made a crypto chick as their profile picture in the end of January. And then so my question is, what was going through your minds when this happened? I mean, like, you must have been elated when the price was going up to 3 ETH. Twitter had an official crypto chick as their profile picture.
Oh gosh. So that was actually a pretty funny story. So Twitter had posted something like, oh, we're launching NFTs. We're going to go shopping today. And we were like, oh, why not? Like, buy a crypto chick. So we, from the official Twitter account, posted something funny in return, just kind of as a joke. And they responded and were like, hey, we'll send you a DM. So they sent a DM, and I mean, obviously there's so many scams in this industry that my first inclination was, this is not real, because they asked for my home address, my legal name, like all of these details. And I was like, all right, if my identity gets stolen, at least I went down for an admirable cause, which is crypto chicks. I'm willing to take one for the team. So I gave away like all of my information, and I was like, hope this works out. And it did. They went in and they bought a crypto chick, and I think that day they bought maybe 4 or 5 NFTs. And then the next day they cycled through displaying each of those NFTs as their profile picture for a quick duration. I think that they have a lot of internal rules about displaying profile pictures just to prevent scams and impersonation. I'm sure they can't have a non-official profile picture for too long, but that was really exciting for our community, just in terms of giving NFTs a sense of legitimacy, right? There's a lot of questions in the broader world outside of our happy little NFT bubble about what NFTs are. Is there a social impact or social good component of NFTs, or is it really just people that are looking to make a lot of money and there's a lot of scams? And I think having a platform as large as Twitter and a brand as large as Twitter really giving quite a bit of credit to the industry of NFTs by going so far as to launch this new product, but also change their profile picture, I think really opened up a lot of eyes in terms of, okay, it's not all scams. There are a lot of collections and a lot of projects that are building really cool, interesting, and new things, but also doing good in the world. So that was super exciting. And yes, the run up in price that we saw, I don't know if it was specifically a credit to the Twitter profile picture. I think in the month of January was really strong for a lot of these women oriented projects. We saw a lot of growth in all of those projects at the same time, which I think is amazing because it gives credit to this concept that all of these projects sort of complement one another. We all have similar missions about how can we empower women in Web3, but we have different visions for how we execute on that mission. So it's very complementary. And we saw that through the month of January, where every project had like a 15-20x increase in the floor price and pretty high return. So that was great to see the broader NFT industry really coming together to celebrate and support women in the space.
One of the
Perfect.
things we always say
go on.
I was just going to say, one of the things that we always say is all boats rise with the tide, right? And so instead of being antagonistic or competitive with any of the other women projects, we intentionally try to be supportive. And I think across the board, that's definitely the right approach to take, because every project has a different lens and a different goal that's associated and kind of heading in the same direction. And so if we're all able to kind of fly as a pack, I think we'll get much further. But one of the nice things that I looked at in terms of metrics surrounding the NFT project, specifically with Crypto Chicks, is even, despite floor price fluctuations and run up in January, the consistent thing has been unique holders climbing. And so instead of this being a project that's just continuing to cannibalize and grow within the existing NFT space, we see that we're bringing in a lot of unique new holders into the NFT ecosystem, which is great, right? Because it's so important that people find a good gateway or a stepping stone for them to kind of get their feet wet. We don't want to be a project that requires significant expertise for you to be involved in or for you to participate as a community member. And so I think that feeling of inclusion and belonging is so important and is something that people tend to find with Crypto Chicks. Hence, I think the uptick that we continue to see with unique holders.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess that kind of transitions well into my next question is, what advice do you both have for women getting into crypto, into Web3, into NFTs, and how can they onboard?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that first, and then Maddie, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. The biggest thing that I've noticed since I started in the NFT industry in August, which I think is laughable that under a year of experience is still in this space, quite a bit of time. But the industry has expanded so rapidly since then. So just the sheer amount of information that's out there is incredibly overwhelming. And so oftentimes we'll tell people, oh, just to get started, you need a Twitter account and you need Discord, and just start following different accounts, join different projects, Discord. But the flood of information that comes in at you when you do those things is so overwhelming if you have no idea what's going on. And so I tell people that are getting into the industry to just set a mental blocker on when you'll be able to buy something, even like a calendar invite. Put a calendar invite 3 weeks out and say you will not spend a single fraction of an ETH until that time happens, and you'll just spend 3 weeks learning as much as possible. So joining Twitter spaces are a really great way to hear real people who have opinions, ideas, thoughts about different projects that they like. Be a fly on the wall in Discords, try to engage with different communities to see which ones are aligned with your personal ethos and your values. And then spend time finding people that you respect and admire on Twitter, that you feel like are giving a lot of genuine knowledge and information without specifically like promoting any one particular project. And just learn as much as possible. There's a lot of resources out there on the tactical parts of information in terms of like getting a wallet set up and tutorials for stuff like that. But I think what's still really hard for people to understand is how to sift through all of the information to figure out what is legitimate and real, and not just like influencers or people that are trying to push a specific message forward. So it's really easy to get caught up in that hype and FOMO. And even all the way back in August, when I was first new to the space, I was on Twitter and people were talking about this. It was like a raccoon profile picture project. And people were saying, this is going to be the next Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I was like, of course, I have to buy it. It's going to be the next Bored Ape Yacht Club. And so I bought it. And now I have a very cute raccoon that's worth approximately $0, but that's okay. It's a learning experience for me. But I think that a lot of people now can avoid having that same FOMO driven initial experience if they just put this mental blocker on, okay, I'm not going to buy anything for 3 weeks and I'm just going to learn as much as possible.
It's, a super interesting question. And I get this all the time. I actually have a learning and development background. So previous to joining and doing Web3 full time, I oversaw kind of special projects and programs across Meta and Google. And a number of those do end up being learning and development centric programs because those are huge talent development problems for organizations. So it's a very interesting question. And while we obviously, women and men can digest information, we can learn all of the same things, but the way that we learn that information is often different. And even within various populations, there's a variety of different learning styles, usually a combination of multiple. And so one of the things that I always ask people is there's not going to be a one size fits all approach for how you learn and onboard in this space. Each learner is going to need something completely different. So it's really important for people to kind of take a step back and think about how they learn best. And that could be you need to talk to 5 friends about it on a regular basis because you really learn from having conversation. It could be that you're an experiential learner and you need to learn by doing. And so you need to mint a bunch of random projects and you need to go through and set up everything security wise on your own and follow step by steps to actually understand what people are talking about. It could be the case that you are a person who learns through absorbing information and you need to silently sit there and digest it on your own. It could be the case that you need legitimate and rigorous curriculum and you need to sit through 3 hours of a self-led e-learning course to be able to ramp up on the space. And so there's different solutions for each of those. But one of the things that we know about women learners is that we require a significantly higher level of confidence, which then becomes perceived competence in a topic to feel like we're able to participate. And so we see this across a number of different studies. There's things, that we talk about around job descriptions where if men meet 60% of the criteria, they'll apply, but women need to meet 100% of the criteria. It's the same thing in learning where women need to feel like they are 100% competent in a topic to participate, where men may not feel like they need to meet that similar threshold. And so we need to work on lowering that threshold for women, but we also need to work on making people feel like they're at that threshold where they are able to participate in the space. And so as Em said, one of the best ways to do that is really to just start embedding yourself in the culture. And so we always tell people, make an anonymous Twitter account. It doesn't need to be associated with anything in your real life. You should have no societal expectations around it. Your friends should not be watching you. You should not feel like the person who lives next door to you is going to see that you're liking things or making silly comments. Create a safe space for yourself, but then also start narrowing that fire hose of information that's going to come in by your affinity or the topics that you're really interested in, right? And so if that's women-led projects, just search women-led NFT projects, find the top ones, follow those. If it's sports, mental health, the same. But instead of following a bunch of random projects, follow ones that are well established in the space, even if the barrier to entry to buy in is too high for you, because they'll start retweeting things from thought leaders, influencers in the space, and general community members that will help you to curate your smaller circle. Because right now, the problem for a lot of people getting involved is like, I don't even know what to do. Like, there's just so many people on Twitter. How do I find the right people to follow? How do I find the right projects? And so if you're able to get your thumb on the pulse of one kind of thread of information that you know is aligned with your beliefs, your interests, affinities, whatever, that feels like a reliable source, that's much more useful than joining 100 Discords, following 100 people, and just hoping that you're, kind of curating the right information. And then, of course, going back to your own personal learning style, really figuring out how you lean into that. Is it sitting silently in Twitter spaces? Is it talking in Twitter spaces? Is it finding one friend in the NFT space? Is it completing the whole Curious Addie's learning curriculum? Different for everybody. But leaning into your personal learning style, I think, is probably the most important thing to determining success.
Awesome. Yeah, those are great points. And I think that's something that I noticed that it did take me a few weeks to really figure out who is the right person to follow. And like you guys both said, is just narrow that the wealth of information to get the right alpha. So I guess a little more about both of yourselves. Are you both doing crypto 24/7 when you're not leading Crypto Chicks? Are you flipping Dogecoin and Shiba Inu? Are you trading Bitcoin? Are you what other NFT projects are you both looking at? I'd love to know how you both spend your days.
We spend a lot of time in crypto checks, to be perfectly candid. Like, not a lot of time for much else, even personal lives. But that's because we're so passionate about what we're doing. I used to trade in the world of altcoins back in like 2016, 2017. I haven't kept up with it much. I have found that that was more financially motivated for me, whereas I feel like NFTs are more mission oriented, which for me personally, and that's not discrediting the people that are trading altcoins. I think there's a lot of incredible impact and good in the world that will come through a lot of those. But for me personally, just like talking to people and NFTs, the communities are so strong that that's really where I feel like it's the most fun for me to be a part of the industry. So I do still have a lot of investments in altcoins, but I'm more of a hodl type investor as opposed to an active trader that's in there keeping a pulse on the trends. I would say I'm definitely overextended into Ethereum right now, but I think that's the same for many people in the NFT space. In terms of projects that I'm excited about, there's a lot. It's hard for me to keep up with the amount of projects that are coming in right now. And so I would say, like, full transparency, I don't do a great job of getting out there and understanding what new projects are coming out that are aligned with where I feel the investing will therefore have impact on the world. So I try to keep up with it, but it's really hard when I'm also trying to drive the business of Crypto Chicks forward. And just from like a prioritization of my time, I feel like my first and foremost level of accountability is to our Crypto Chicks community. And with that, it means not necessarily spending as much time actively trading NFTs as I was doing, say, like 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, I would say I dabble, but I definitely could be even more intentional and probably should with the way that I'm investing. But it's just a limitation of time, as Em was saying. Our circles on Twitter, Instagram, Discord are very women centric, right? And so the discoverability aspect is we will regularly see and be flagged or even just discover women led, women centric NFT projects that align, or, just general Web3 projects that align with us from a mission, vision, value, ethos perspective. So I think we're pretty good at finding those and being able to support them. And if you look at our wallets, it's just like a bunch of random projects. We have like one from every single women-led project that you could think of, because we just pop in, we get to know the founders and the team. We like what they're doing. We think that their missions are unique and all heading in the right direction, as we were kind of talking about earlier. So I think you'll regularly see us supporting other women projects, having them onto our Twitter spaces, but our bubbles are usually pretty thick around the women-led projects. And then on the side, I am really passionate about animal welfare, particularly like dogs, just a huge dog lover, dog mom myself. And so the algorithms will randomly find dog-centric rescue projects to push to me. So I have a few of those.
And I think it's important also to clarify that I think for both me and Maddie, we're more of long-term investors in a lot of the projects that we hold. So I'm spending almost zero time thinking about what am I actively going to flip on any given day. If I do buy something, it's going like over to my ledger or to another cold wallet, and I'm not thinking much about it. And so I would say I own like probably 100 NFTs, but I'm not actively thinking about selling those on any given day. So it's a good way to, number one, invest in a way that's with conviction. It's aligned with how I feel we're going to have impact on the world. But number two, it's a way where I don't need to be constantly checking floor prices or worried about what's any fluctuation in the market on any given day, because I'm thinking about an investment horizon of 1 year of where are these projects going to be? What is the mission that they're building? And how can I use the money that I have to support people in building those missions? So that's why I think it's not necessarily a day in the life type of thing, just because when you invest over such a long-term horizon, it doesn't take up that much in any given specific day.
This is probably the opposite of what you and many of your listeners want to hear, but I am not a data-driven investor in many ways, but my partner is. And so he's a huge numbers person. And there have been so many conversations that we've had now where 2 months ago, I will have said, I really like this team. I think they have great, it's kind of the intangible things for me, right? They have a great vision. They seem like they actually have execution chops. They are able to get themselves organized. They responded well to whatever miniature challenge or crises has come up already. They're getting the community motivated. Some of those more like nebulous vibe things that are a lot of where I drive my intuition from in terms of investing. And then, 2 months later, he'll be like, oh my God, did you see the floor prices? Did you see the unique holders? This is moving like crazy, the changeover. And how'd you know? And I'm like, I just had a vibe, And so I think that kind of happens when you're investing aligned with your personal mission and when you're getting a sense for the real people behind the project. And I think that's probably aligned with the way that both of us tend to approach investing in this space, particularly for NFTs, obviously very different from the coin perspective and general currency. But that's been my driving factor for looking at, DAO projects that I think are going to be successful, general projects in Web3, and then, of course, NFTs as well.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's very refreshing to hear that your investing ideology is more mission oriented, because I think a lot of people will just be like, well, this project's going to do well and I'm going to be able to make money, whether it's flipping in a day or flipping in a year. But both of you kind of more want to invest in the team and investing in the mission that project gives. And I do, Maddie, I think that's similar to how I also research and review maybe 50 to 100 projects a month. And yeah, that's definitely something you look at is, will the team be able to execute? Is the team high quality? Do the NFTs add value, add utility? Is there maybe celebrities or other high profile individuals that give network effect? So yeah, I think both of your investing ideology is great. And I think that's something we can end on. So I really appreciate both of you coming on to our Women in Crypto TV show at Token Metrics. We loved having you here. Do you guys have any closing thoughts that you want to leave our viewers with?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I know it's not something that you have to do, using your platform to highlight women in the space. And so it's really admirable. And of course, something we appreciate you going out of your way to create space and uplift and be an ally to women in this space. So appreciate you. And thank you for having us on. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been fantastic. Thanks so much for having us, Jacob.
Awesome. Well, everyone, make sure you check out Crypto Chicks. The links to the project and the Twitter account and everything will be in the bio. Make sure you subscribe to Token Metrics and stay tuned. Have a nice one.